Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the Spider-Verse Retrospectives. Well, we've taken a look at issues 1 through 4 of Edge of Spider-Geddon and we've taken a look at the Superior Octopus one-shot. I think it's time we get to the main event. So today, ladies and gentlemen, we will begin our discussion on the centerpiece for this era of the Spider-Verse Retrospectives, Spider-Geddon, the sequel to the original Spider-Verse storyline. Although, while Spider-Verse was actually a storyline told in the pages of Amazing Spider-Man, Spider-Geddon actually has a full-on miniseries, which of course is collected in this here trade. There's more material collected in this trade in the form of two tie-in issues, which we'll be looking at once we get to the tie-ins and so forth. But for now, it's just the whole miniseries, and it's an interesting take, because as I mentioned on Tuesday, the first issue of Spider-Geddon is not a number 1 issue, no, it's a number 0 issue. For some reason, when Spider-Geddon was first thought up, instead of having it just be a story told within the pages of issues 1 through 5, they decided to do a 0th issue, and the 0th issue, by virtue of its name, acts as sort of a prologue to Spider-Geddon, but also a preview. I'll get to that when I actually look at the issue. But with that being said, is it worthy of being a 0th issue, or does it just take up space and ultimately just utilizes an unnecessary number for something that ultimately is pointless? Well, let's take a look at it and find out. As today we'll be taking a look at Spider-Geddon number 0, and we actually got 2 stories in here. The first one is called New Players and actually takes place in the world of the Insomniac Spider-Man, who, if you have no idea who that is, it's the Spider-Man from the PS4/PS5 video game. And okay, before I start talking about the story, the fact that this Spider-Man was included in this, I think is just fucking awesome. Before I get to, here's the thing. I have my thoughts on why Spider-Geddon exists at all, because I think that Spider-Geddon exists to act as a tie-in to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Like, Marvel wanted to create Spider-Geddon because Into the Spider-Verse had either come out or was coming out at the time that the comic was published, and they wanted to cash in on that as quickly as possible by saying, oh, let's make something with a Spider-Verse name on it. I'll get more into my thoughts on that when I actually finish the miniseries, but basically, the idea of them trying to further kind of cash in by having one of the Spideys that takes part in this event be one from a recently released game that actually was getting really good reviews and a lot of people had a lot of fun with, I think is really cool. So the fact that he was able to make the jump from the game to the comics, I think is nice. I like it. And honestly, as someone who did play that game before he actually started reading the comic, the very first page feels like something right out of the game, as it opens up with an Insomniac Spider-Man as he's swinging through New York, listening to the Just the Facts podcast with J. Jonah Jameson, which of course, like with every other Just the Facts podcast, is essentially berating Spider-Man and talking about how shitty New York is and how he's kinda sorta to blame. Which again, if you haven't played the PS4 game, that's a thing in there, and I'm also gonna give a heads up. I'm also going to be revealing some spoilers for said video game, as I believe that they're important to understand certain plot developments. Hold on one sec. Sorry, it was just angled weirdly. But whatever. Spider-Man is just pretty much, after Spider-Man mutes the podcast, because at this point he just doesn't want to hear any more of it, he ends up getting a call from this world's version of Mary Jane, who in this reality is a reporter for the Daily Bugle. And she's calling Peter because she's getting police reports of some guy in New York who's robbing a bank. And of course, Spider-Man, being the resident superhero, wants to go and take care of him, though Mary Jane warns him that the guy might be a bit of a problem, because apparently his costume is a bit spider-themed, and apparently initial reports thought that the guy was Spider-Man. As such, Spidey decides to kind of keep all that in mind because, well, he is, in his own words, his relationship with the cops it's complicated, so he doesn't want to he knows if he might swing in while the spider-themed guy is robbing everything, he might get shot at as well, but whatever, supervillain takes priority. As such, Peter ends up swinging over, and we see that the supervillain in question is this world's version of the Spider-Man villain, Tarantula, and if you expect me to know anything about Tarantula, I don't. But either way, the tarantula is causing mass havoc as he's robbing a bank. robbing a bank, and of course Spidey arrives on the scene and just immediately starts going with his regular quips. And Tarantula is actually very happy to see Spidey because, well, he's heard stories about him and is ready to face him. At first, Spidey tries to zap him using electric webs he has, but they do nothing. But thankfully, in the midst of the fight with the Tarantula, Peter is able to throw one of his web bombs at him, as again, that's a weapon from the game, and the Tarantula, who had not expected that, just kind of caught off guard as it explodes right in his face. And while Peter admits that the webbing is not as strong as his regular web shooters, it should hold Tarantula in place long enough for him to get close enough and deliver a knockout punch straight to his face. Unfortunately, just as Peter gets into position, something interrupts him before he can deliver the blow, and that something is a portal. And from that portal comes the Superior Spider-Man. And it's not an alternate universe version of the character. He's not from a world where Otto Octavius stayed on as Spider-Man. This is the Otto Octavius from the main Marvel universe. This is the part of the story that's actually just a preview, because spoilers, the events of this comic happen later on in Spider-Geddon, and this is basically Otto coming around to recruit this world's Peter Parker to join their impromptu Spider Army. Of course, once he shows up, Peter is immediately on high alert because what the hell, what's another Spider-Person doing here? And of course, and from there, immediately they kind of sort of start fighting, as they immediately try getting into combat, but, well, since they're both Spider-Man, they're both pretty evenly matched, as they're both fast, quick, have great agility, and spider senses to warn the other when one of them tries throwing a punch. However, as such, and the thing is, while this is all going on, Peter's like, wait, so if you're a Spider-Man, why aren't you helping me fight the bad guy instead of, why aren't you helping me fight the bad guy instead of fighting me? And Otto, because, yeah, it is Otto Octavius. I already said that, sorry. But Otto admits that he's not here to help him with some petty traveling matters. There's a crisis looming over the horizon that threatens all their kind, and they need to face it together. It takes priority, not some stripling supervillain on this world. No. They gotta focus on that thing. Unfortunately, though, as Peter and Otto are fighting, this gives Tarantula enough time to break through the webbing and immediately start fighting the pair of Spideys. I mean, as such, Insomniac Spidey tries to once again hit him with another web bomb, but the Tarantula, now expecting that, knocks it right back and ends up webbing up both Spider-Men before he makes a getaway. Thankfully, though, Otto manages to break through the webbing because he's actually lined his robotic arms with a chemical that can dissolve the web fluid. But from there, he does tell Peter that he does need to talk to him and explain the situation. Although Peter says that they need to take it somewhere else because, again, the relationship with the cops is complicated. As such, both Spideys end up going up to a roof, and from there we get off panel, Otto kind of explains the whole situation to Peter, and it's here where we, the readers, know exactly what's going on, because kind of going off of what we saw in the Superior Octopus #1, the Inheritors are back, and it turns out they want to make Earth 616 their new home base. Yeah, not exactly a good thing. As such, just like with Spider-Verse, the various Spideys in the multiverse are now once again trying to band together to try and take them down, which is why Otto is here, as he wants to recruit the Insomniac Spider-Man to their cause. Of course, Peter's a little dubious of this, and he's even more dubious of, well, the Superior Spider-Man, because after all, if he is meant to be the Spider-Man of another world, why doesn't it like looking in a mirror? To which Otto does finally reveal that he is in fact an alternate version of Otto Octavius, which, yeah, does kind of stir some feelings up in Peter. So, yeah, this is where we have to get into spoiler territory for the Insomniac Spider-Man game. A major part of the Insomniac Spider-Man game was that in that continuity, Peter worked for that world's version of Otto Octavius, who was attempting to establish his own company by the name of Octavius Industries, which was supposed to specialize in scientific research, robotics, prosthetics, and various other weapons and advancements and so forth. Peter was happy. The thing is, Peter was very happy to work for this world's version of Otto Octavius because he respected him not just as a scientist, but as a friend. He saw Otto as a mentor, and in many ways, Otto was like a second father to Peter, supporting him, being there for him, offering him advice, helping him out, and in many cases, they confided in one another just as much as they worked together. Even to the point where in the game, when Otto will wind up getting his funding cut off by the mayor, Peter still wanted to stick around and help him. Otto was happy to do it. Unfortunately, though, as you would expect from any version of Otto Octavius, he kind of went off the deep end. And in his attempts to try and get back on top, he wound up creating a new kind of prosthetic, one that taps directly into the mind. And in those prosthetics, wound up being the giant tentacles that you associate with Doc Ock. And unfortunately, though, the tentacles kind of had a flaw. The neural interface was incomplete and would wind up tapping into other aspects of the brain, removing social inhibitions and altering the personality of whoever utilized them. And sadly, Otto was very keen to utilize the tentacles because, well, he had a neurological disorder from exposure to toxic chemicals in his youth, in his own words. Put simply, in enough time, Otto would have become a vegetable. His mind would have been fine, but his body would have been useless. Hence why he wants the tentacles, because they could, like he said, tap directly into his mind, and he could still move around. But sadly, in his arrogance and haste, he rushed production, and of course, that's what led to the flaw. And the thing is, with this version of Otto, he has grudges. He had very big grudges, because here's another little tidbit. The mayor of New York was Norman Osborn in this continuity. And wouldn't you know it, Norman Osborn screwed Otto Octavius over. Yeah, basically from here, Otto just kind of went on a rampage. He wound up forming the Sinister Six in this timeline, wound up causing a breakout of a deadly virus that Oscorp had unwittingly created in New York to cause everything to go into chaos, and then he attempted to try and set Norman up as a failure by exposing that he was the one that created it, while also publicly admitting his own faults. And as a result, Peter did have to take Otto down and destroy the arms, which was tragic, to say the least, and from there, Otto did wind up losing his arms and was sent to the Supermax prison known as the Raft. And, well, yeah, Peter's still kind of reeling from that. Not just from the fact that the man he idolized turned into a monster, but as part of that big crisis, he lost people he cared about. And I'm not going to say who those people are, but let's just say it hit him hard. My point is this. Peter seeing the superior Spider-Man and learning that he is an alternate version of Otto Octavius, it hits hard. And in some ways, he looks at the superior Spider-Man as what his Otto Octavius could have been, which once again kind of feeds into what I love about alternate universes, the paths we could have gone down, and so on and so forth. But basically, he looks at the superior Spider-Man, and it's clear that all those conflicting emotions that he had running through his head are coming back, and he really doesn't know how to feel. Though Otto does try to still get him to join up with him and join their army to face off against the Inheritors. However, in the middle of this exposition, Peter ends up getting another call from the police band, and he learns that the tarantula is striking again. This time hold on, let me see if I can confirm this. He's attacking a research facility, and Peter, since he's Mr. Responsibility, believes that he has to go take care of the tarantula. Of course, Otto tries to tell him, no, we can't just do that, we have to go deal with a bigger crisis, but Peter counters with, look, I get it, there's this big crisis going on, but if what you told me is true, then there are plenty of other spider people already on that case, but right now, this world only has me, and I have to do what I can to protect it. And on top of that, you're still another version of Otto Octavius, and I don't really fully believe I can trust you right now, so forgive me if I don't just jump all the way in with this whole plan. As such, he attempts to jump away to go deal with the tarantula, but Otto jumps after him and then says fine. Then the die is cast as he pulls out his arms, which, yeah, it looks as though that Otto is getting ready to fight Peter here, which even Peter kind of expected. However, Otto immediately wait, no, actually, I'm not gonna fight you. I'll help you. I'll show you that I'm trustworthy. And then, once we're done, then I can request your services, which what I love is that they intentionally showcase that it's kind of painting Otto to do what he's doing, and it is and they don't outright say it, but I think he was planning to fight the Insomniac Spider-Man over this. Just like he was getting frustrated, and he did talk about how his patience is wearing thinner and thinner. So I think this was him ultimately getting ready to just go mano a mano with him. But just before he could, some part of his brain went, no, we want him on our side. We have to play nice. So he realized, okay, best way we can do that. Maybe we can actually help them. We can make this thing go quicker if we do. So I like that. I kind of like that. Even Peter makes fun of Otto for, it's like, I like the way you say, I like the word request used, even though it sounded like it pained you to say it. I don't know. It's funny. But either way, Peter happily accepts Otto's help, and so the two Spider-Men swing off to go deal with the tarantula. And yeah, we see the tarantula as he's at the research facility and attacking various cops that showed up to stop him, as he just outwardly shouts and monologues to himself about how he's here to steal nerve gas because he wants to get the government run by the crime lords and slum lords of his country and all that crap. So yeah, the dude's kind of sort of a terrorist. But bottom line, the superior Insomniac Spider-Man's whatever. They both Spideys show up and start engaging the tarantula in combat, with the superior Spider-Man distracting him, while Insomniac Spidey swings in and manages to deliver a knockout right to his head. Unfortunately, while the tarantula is woozy and out of it, his arms are still operating on their own specific form of AI, so they're still attacking the pair of Spideys, resulting in them having to duck and cover. Thankfully, though, Otto has a counter for this. As while he takes a look at the tarantula's tech, he's able to figure out what kind of AI is powering his legs, and he knows how to fix it, as immediately he pulls out his own brand of spider bots, which he immediately sicks on the tarantula, and utilizing their own technology, they manage to short out his suit and cut off the tarantula's neural link with his arms, allowing this world Spidey to go in and deliver the coup de grace by punching him in the chest and knocking him down, leaving him wide open for the cops to arrest him. As such, with the bad guy beaten, the Insomniac Spidey is now more willing to help out the superior Spider-Man, even outwardly telling him that I look at you and I see what my doc could have been if he hadn't gone off the deep end, and even Otto manages to kind of assure Peter that while he does believe that most versions of Peter are kind of brash, arrogant, and intend to talk like they're at an open mic night at a comedy club, he does believe that they are brave, and that cannot be replicated across. Sorry, Chinny's jumping on the bed. The point is, he admires them for how brave they are, and Otto explains that if this world's Otto is in his right mind, then he'd probably be proud of Peter as well, which does actually lighten Peter's mood enough. And he tells Otto, "Look, if you need my help, I'll do it. Just tell me where to go, and I'll follow." Which Otto is happy to do, though before Peter goes off, there are a couple people he needs to talk to. Specifically, this world's versions of Miles Morales and Mary Jane Watson, because, yeah, at the end of the original PS4 Spider-Man game, Miles Morales wound up getting spider powers. You couldn't tell by the follow-up game being called Spider-Man Miles Morales, but pretty much, yeah, Peter wants to go to him and let him know, and pretty much just tell him, keep an eye on the city. If there a crisis comes up that you think you can deal with, go take care of it. And likewise, if I don't come back, the city's going to need you to protect it. And while also going out to talk to Mary Jane and give her a final farewell. Hold on one second. Sorry about that dog stuff. But yeah, either way, as Peter does say his final farewells, there is actually one place that Otto wants to go. Specifically, he wants to find this world's Otto Octavius. As such, Peter takes Otto to the raft, though when I say takes him to there, it's really that he brings him to a part of the city where they can see it, because the raft, by virtue of its name, is right in the middle of the Hudson, so they can't just exactly go swinging over there and visit it, and there's really no visiting with the major supervillains there. However, Peter can show Otto a heads-up display from his mask on the night that they fought, and sure enough, he shows it to Otto, and sure enough, yeah, the Insomniac Doc Ock is kind of looking pathetic, which the main universe Otto kind of looks at that and thinks, I see, and he admits that it is kind of humbling, and he does see it as a warning of what he could become if he doesn't kind of keep himself on this. Hold on one second. Sorry, I was having diarrhea of the mouth. The point is, yeah, Otto looks at his counterpart and sees it as a cautionary tale, but he also admits this is a situation that Otto Octavius should never be in. And so as the pair of Spideys swing away, we see that the main universe Otto left left a little bit of a present behind. A spider bot. Which, yeah, I don't think that's going to come up again in the video games or the comics, but, yeah, the implication is that the superior Spider-Man is leaving something for his counterpart in this world. So that's nice. But point is, yeah, with all the with everything kind of said and done, Otto now sure that the Insomniac Spidey is now going to join their cause. He opens up a portal, and the story ends as they both swing away, with Otto saying how if they don't. How they have to go out, they have to go off, getting tongue tied again. Have to go off, and they may end up facing Armageddon. To which Insomniac Spider-Man says, "Oh, do you mean, or maybe we should call it Spider-Geddon?" To which Otto is just kind of annoyed at that, and the more Peter pushes it, the more Otto thinks that maybe there's a universe out there where there's a mute Spider-Man. So, yeah, that's where that story ends. But the second story is the one that actually acts as the prologue, and, well, this one is also called Check-In, and it kind of serves the same purpose that the story from the Superior Octopus served, as in this case, we actually check in with the Web Warriors as they are keeping tabs on the Inheritors. So, remember in the Superior Octopus where Karn mentioned how they sent spider bots to Earth 3145 to keep eyes on the Inheritors? Well, we're actually seeing those spider bots as they're sent out. As to make sure the Inheritors are still on this world and haven't gone out, we see that Pavitra Prabhakar has been sending spider bots straight to that world and been controlling them from a console on Earth 1 or Earth 001. And while he typically is the one that is at the driver's seat controlling the spider bots, he always has someone on standby that helps him out. The first time he does it, we see him with Hobie Brown, who of course is being snarky and is being kind of a snarky jackass as he advocates for killing the Inheritors. Sorry, Chinny came back in. Then after that, the next time we see them, we see that he's gotten Mayday back because he's tired of dealing with Hobie and his crap. And then finally after that, we see Billy Braddock. And yeah, basically, we see that this surveillance has been going on for at least months because bit by bit we see time going by and we see that there are physical changes to the parties involved. Like, case in point, we see that Pavitra is growing a beard, and just every time we check back in, the beard has grown a little bit more. Like, first starting out kind of thin, and then getting a lot more bushy, so it's clear he hasn't shaved in a while, which I wonder why, but hey, to each their own. If he wants the beard, he can have the beard. And likewise, on R3145, every time one of the spider bots gets close to the bunker that the Inheritors are hiding out on, they're all taken out by one of the Inheritors. Specifically, Deimos, who always just goes into a rage when he sees them and destroys the bots. But again, every time we check back in on him, we see that Deimos is getting skinnier, thinner, more malnourished, since after all, he and his kin are not eating spider totems. Because again, I have to remind you, back during Spider-Verse, their only source of nutrition were all those radioactive spiders that Mayday and Ben accidentally let into the bunker when they fought. And unfortunately, odds that was not an unlimited supply. Eventually, they were going to go through them, and based on the fact that Deimos is getting steadily weaker, it's clear that they've kind of run through their supply, and so at this point, death is imminent. They just are waiting out the clock. And with even the last time we see Deimos, he's practically skin and bones, though still strong enough to take out the spider bots. Unfortunately, though, the spider bots aren't just being trashed, because you see, as Deimos trashes the nearest one, we do see that he is conversing with another one of the Inheritors, Genix, who looks just as sickly and weak as Deimos. And basically, Deimos is angry because he can smell the spider's essence on each of the bots, but they're not spiders. It feels like they're taunting them. But of course, Genix is not having any of this. After all, spiders usually trap their prey. And if the spiders are the one holding them in place, then that means the Inheritors are tantamount to flies, and the Inheritors are no flies. They will escape. They will rise out. And we see that Genix has been taking the spare parts from each of the spider bots and putting them together into forming a cluster, creating a machine from them, and in the end of the comic even ends with him having a sinister smile as he says how nice it is that the spiders of the multiverse are providing them with such raw materials. So, yeah. That's kind of creepy. But, yeah, so let's get back. So, what are my thoughts on this comic? Well, first, let's talk about the new player storyline. Let's talk about the new player's story. as a lead-in to, or preview to Spider-Geddon, I enjoy it. I legitimately enjoy it. As someone who did play the PS4 Spider-Man game before reading this comic, I thought it was fun to just see the PS4 Spider-Man actually interacting with another Spider-Man from the comics, specifically the Superior Spider-Man, which I think works well because, well, like I said, in the Insomniac universe, this Spider-Man had a deep friendship with his world's Otto Octavius. So meeting another Spider-Man who is not only another version of his mentor, but a more heroic version, at least at the moment, I think it's gonna mess him up. On top of that, throughout the story, I love the way he reacts when he sees Otto, when he learns that this other Spider-Man is Otto, and the way Otto talks to him, it's very clear that this is still the same arrogant Otto Octavius, and what I do enjoy is that he does kind of lose his temper when dealing with the Insomniac Spider-Man. Although, of course, he has to rein that temper in when he realizes, okay, I need to play nice because I want this guy on our team. But what I do like is just kind of how it kind of develops from both of these sides looking into the other's, I guess you can say, world, so to speak. I mean, it's more appropriate for the Superior Spider-Man to be looking in on Insomniac Spidey's world, since he's literally the one dropping in and giving him help. But in this case, it's a two-way streak. When Insomniac Spider-Man looks at Otto, he doesn't see an alternate version of himself, he sees what his mentor could have been. And yes, while the Superior Spider-Man is still arrogant, angry, kind of impatient, and full of himself, ultimately he's still a hero. And in some regards, like Peter said in the story, he looks at this version of Otto and sees what his could have been if he hadn't gone insane. He sees a good man, a good soul while having a high opinion of himself, ultimately wants to do good. And in that regard, that's kind of what Otto was in the Insomniac Spider-Man games. Before he went off his rocker, he was trying to do good. It's part of the reason why Peter respected him so much. So to see a version of Otto who seemingly has embraced that and grown stronger, I kind of like that. I kind of like how it reflects with him. And what I do like is that despite how this version of how Insomniac and how, despite the fact that the Superior Spider-Man markets himself as, oh, I'm a hero, I'm a good guy, I'm the Spider-Man of the world, you can trust me, the Insomniac Spider-Man is still hesitant to trust him, because after all, he's still an Otto Octavius, and like I said, he trusted his Otto Octavius implicitly, to the point where when he learned that Otto was the one that was behind the whole Sinister Six and all that crap, it kind of broke him. And at every opportunity in the Insomniac video game, he tried to level with Otto, tried to get him to see the light, make him realize what he was doing was wrong, but Otto just wouldn't listen. So we see this version of Spidey at a point where he's tried all that, but essentially, the curtain's been the veil has been lifted. The curtain's been pulled back, and he's seen the ugliness behind it. So rather than trying to look at the Superior Spider-Man and think, "Wow, you're the best version of him. I can trust you," he looks at him and thinks, "I don't know. I don't know if I can truly believe you." And I like how that's reflected throughout the story, to the point where even when he's told the situation with the Inheritors and that they're back and that they're trying to take over the main Marvel universe, he doesn't just immediately go, "Oh, we have to do something about that." It's more like, I don't know, I don't think you have a reason to lie to me, but I also don't fully trust you either, so I'm just gonna opt and go with what I know rather than what you tell me. But at the same time, I do like the dynamic that's built from there. Kind of going off of how, again, this is a version of Otto who's kind of had a bit of his character development undone, but is still trying to do good. I like that when he realizes that when he tries to actually get Spidey on his side, he tries to essentially find a middle ground for them. As rather than duking it out with this world Spidey, which I still suspect he would have done if Peter had made his comment about, yeah, this is where I think things would have gone. I like that he actually decides, okay, I'll offer you my help, and there are no strings attached. He legitimately does his best to cooperate with Peter, and yes, while he has more experience on him and definitely is more capable, especially when you compare his tech to Peter's. At the same time, he means what he says. He helps out Peter, and because of his aid, the tarantula is taken down very efficiently, very quickly, which again kind of fits when you consider Otto Octavius is not only, well, the superior Spider-Man, but is also trying to quicken things along so we can go back to fighting the Inheritors. I like that. It's nice, and I like the resolution and at the end of the story when Peter decides, okay, maybe you are trustworthy, I will go with you. Especially when Otto does try to give him some kind words and say, look, it might not mean much coming from me, but I think if your Otto wasn't as crazy, I think he'd be just as proud of you as I am. I legitimately like that. It could be seen as emotional manipulation in some regard, but by that same token, it is genuinely nice, because imagine just seeing an alternate version of someone you cared about, someone who went off the deep end, and then this other version comes out of nowhere, who seemingly looks fine, and they say, look, I trust you, you're a good person, don't let what happened to me in this world deter you, you're ultimately good, and everything that we strove for is worth striving for. It's a nice way of kind of giving the Insomniac Spider-Man some emotional catharsis. And I like that. I like how it's showcased, and honestly, again, hold on a sec. Sorry, again, dog stuff. But like I said, I like that bit of emotional catharsis for when Otto does assure Peter he's doing good. And again, kind of going off of the whole including this version of Spider-Man thing, I love that we get to see more of how the world works. Like I said, once I started reading the comic, it was like stepping right back into that world, complete with having Spider-Man swinging around New York, listening to J. Jonah Jameson talk about how Spider-Man is poisoning the water supply or some crap. They even did the quote of Nazis made of bees from the game. It's great. And then, of course, and they even include some of the dialogue that you kind of get from generic conversations from that game, like when he says, "Oh, call from MJ." It's like, "I'm away, on my way, talk to you later." And it feels like it's actually taking a page right from the video game. I love that. It's really nice, and it emulates the game rather well. And I want to make something clear: this comic came out before the City at War adaptation came out, which, if you don't know, Spider-Man City at War was a miniseries that adapted the Insomniac Spider-Man game. I read some of it. Honestly, I don't care that much for it, but it's a decent attempt at best. So, at the very least, seeing this comic actually try and recapture what made the game work, I enjoy that. I like that. And I think it does work for the most part. It does include some new elements, like with the inclusion, like with the addition of the tarantula, but I like how they kind of work off of how everything did, I like how they worked off of what happened in the game and kind of showcased the fallout from that a bit. Like when Peter does explain to the main universe Otto about what happened to his counterpart and they go to visit the raft. When Peter goes to talk to Mary Jane, and then even when Peter goes to talk to Miles and let him know if something happens and you think you can deal with it, go take care of it. Which even leads to a nice little thing where Otto's like, "Hey, he has spider powers too. Couldn't we take him?" But then Peter shuts him down, saying, "No, he still needs more experience. And besides, if something happens to me, the city's going to need help. So I think he's the best choice." So I like that. I do like how we see more of that. And at its core, it's just interesting seeing these two different Spider-Men interact. Even putting aside that one's an alternate version of the other's mentor, their dynamic is brilliant. After all, Otto as the superior Spider-Man was a much more serious Spider-Man. He didn't joke, he didn't quip, and if he mocked anyone, it was to mock how stupid they were in comparison to him. He always liked to gloat about himself. It's why he called himself the superior Spider-Man. He is not someone that makes jokes. He's not someone that does fun times because he wants to distract the enemy. He is a guy that wants to cut straight to the point, and if you keep trying to distract him, he will shut you up. And I love seeing him kind of working off the more energetic, jokey Peter from the PS4 game. The way that this Peter likes to make quips and jokes, even do little quick jabs at Otto just to see his reaction. Or when he does actually start treating it kind of like a game, even though this is serious business. Which, again, if you know Spider-Man, you know that regardless of how serious the situation is, he's going to make his quips. It's how he copes. So I love seeing that work. So I love seeing that dynamic. One being kind of the more chiseled, hardened mentor who wants to take everything seriously, while one's hyper, energetic, and fun. I love that dynamic between them. It's genuinely fun funny, and it makes for an enjoyable setup when they actually do start working together. Because I do like just seeing Otto get annoyed and kind of groan. Hold on a second. Again, dog stuff. But yeah, like I said, it's fun seeing both. It's fun seeing kind of Otto groan whenever Peter makes his jokes, and likewise, the more annoyed Otto gets, the more Peter just keeps joking. It's legitimately funny, and I love it. It's a great dynamic, and again, it's what I love when you have alternate versions of a character, because when you have alternate versions of a similar character, not all versions are the same. They have similarities, but they're ultimately different. But ultimately, despite their shared origins, they're different characters. And even kind of forgetting that the Superior Spider-Man and the Insomniac Spider-Man are two different people under their masks, they're both still Spider-Man. So it's kind of cool seeing their two different methods at work when they're actually working alongside each other, trying to coordinate and take down the tarantula. I love seeing that. It makes for some good action, it makes for some good dialogue, it makes for some good jokes, and some legitimately cool plot developments as we see Otto utilizing his technology to take down the tarantula. It's really good, and again, going off of the whole character stuff, I like that little thing when Otto does go to see what happened to his counterpart in this world, and again, drop a possible hint that he might have left his counterpart something to help him out. Again, I don't think anything ever comes of it. In fact, at the time that I'm recording this, Spider-Man 2 is on the horizon, so I doubt that game's going to do anything. But it's still something creepy and is a nice little plot thread that could be picked up on if someone was interested. So, on the whole, I think that New Players is a legitimately good story. I think it's a good preview of what you can expect from Spider-Verse, a great sneak peek, and it helps establish exactly what Spider-Geddon is all about. I call it Spider-Verse there. I love this, just having these different Spider-Men coming together, being in the same room, and just working off of each other. It's fun, it's fun, it's dynamic, it's action-packed, it's full of emotion, it's got some great character moments, especially between Otto and Peter. On the whole, I just think it's a good story and definitely a good way to start the Zeroth issue. As for Check-In, this one definitely acts as a more proper lead into Spider-Geddon. And honestly, while I'm looking at this comic after looking at the Superior Octopus, I'm just going to say this right now. If you choose to read these comics, I recommend reading the Zeroth issue of Spider-Geddon before you read the Superior Octopus, because, well, the backup story in Spider-Geddon number 0 takes place before the backup story in the Superior Octopus, because going back to what happened in the backup story for Superior Octopus, what we saw in that story were the Inheritors, they were getting ready to break out as they utilized the signals from the various spider bots that the Web Warriors sent to them and managed to send a signal straight to Earth 616 to Otto's cloning vats, and thus that's how they were able to escape. But the thing is, none of the lead-in material up to that point ever showcased that. We didn't really see how the Inheritors came back. In fact, in Edge of Spider-Geddon, all we saw were the various Spideys in the multiverse being brought together to face the Inheritors. We didn't really see how they were brought back, except until we got to rereading the Superior Octopus. And likewise, again, they only explain, oh, the spider bots we sent to go spy on them, they must have used them, but we never saw any spider bots. It wasn't until you read Spider-Geddon number 0 that you see the spider bots that they were utilizing. As we see Pavitr and whichever other Spidey he's working with, throwing them to Earth 3145 and seeing them each getting taken down by Deimos as he progressively gets thinner and thinner. Again, it feels like that if you want to get the story in the proper order, read issue 0 of Spider-Geddon before you read the Superior Octopus, as the backup stories definitely flow better when you read them like that. Otherwise, they're kind of out of place, so to speak. With that said, it is a nice little lead-in, and I think it's a good way of raising tension. And if you do read them in the order that I just said, it's a great way of just kind of raising things up, because the end of the check-in story in the 0th issue of Spider-Geddon really does give you the chills. As the final shot of Genix as he's building a machine from the various heads of all the spider bots with a sinister smile on his face, it lets you know he's up to something. And with how furiously Deimos hunts the spider bots whenever they come to this world, you can tell that the Inheritors are getting desperate and they're planning something, some kind of escape, and it does give you the chills about what they're gonna do and how they're gonna get out of there. And then combine that with what we saw in the check-in story from the Superior Octopus, where they do manage to finally break through and utilize this and send out a signal to Earth 616 to build new clone bodies. It works. It actually does work well, and essentially the rising tension from this check-in story compared to that one, I think it works. It works well as you build up to it perfectly, and then when you have the payoff in Superior Octopus, you know, oh crap, things are about to go down, and we need to take care of this ASAP. I like that, and ultimately I think it works well, at least when you read in the proper order. As it is, though, the check-in story is I think a nice way of building up the tension, as it once again, like I said, it does showcase how the Inheritors are slowly building up to something big, and it does make you wonder what it is they have up their sleeves and how exactly they're gonna utilize their resources to escape. I dig that, it works, and overall, it's fine. So, yeah, on the whole, I think Spider-Geddon #0 is a good start to the miniseries. The first story is a great preview of what to expect gives you a lowdown on what the situation is going to be, and offers some great character interaction while offering some really good emotional moments between the Spideys, while also kind of giving some nice fan-serving moments from just including the Insomniac Spider-Man at all, while giving us some follow-up from his game. And then likewise, the check-in story is a nice way of actually building up to Spider-Geddon proper and making you wonder what the heck's going on, especially, like I said, if you read Spider-Geddon #0 before you read the Superior Octopus. So, again, on the whole, legitimately good stuff. So, yeah, I think that's really all I have to say. I thank you for watching. I apologize for all the stopping or stuttering I was doing. I do hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you tune in Saturday when we actually look at Spider-Geddon #1 and see the Inheritors actually launch into attack. So, till then, I hope you have a good Thursday, and as always, take care.